I, from very young, loved reading, loved writing, loved working with authors on, working with writers on what they were writing. I loved to be the organizer. I loved to sort of hear the people's stories and gather people's thoughts and help them tell that story better from a very young age. And so through high school, it was the literary journal, it was the newspaper, it was the school yearbook. And I thought that meant that I wanted to be in magazines. Books didn't occur to me. I was a very, very early reader, read all the time, but books didn't occur to me. Magazines because they were sexy, they were glamorous. It was a world that I guess I saw more than the book world. I mean, books just came from a secret place, a magical place. Well, books appeared. They were in the library, they were in the bookstore, but I'd never given any thought to how they were put together. So here I am thinking I'm going to be in magazines. I worked as an intern for a magazine, and I go to college, and it's magazines, magazines, magazines. And slowly I started thinking, I had an encounter with a literary agent, actually, where I was like, a literary agent? What's that? And it was explained to me that a literary agent sort of gets books, gives it to the publishing companies, and then that's how books are made. I'm like, publishing companies, whatever. But still, in my head, I'm 19 years old. It's 1991 or 1992. I'm still thinking magazines. And I was in a class, the Formation of American Culture. That was the class that I was in. I was an American Studies major at Yale, and we all had to take certain classes, and this was the formation of modern American culture. And I had to do this paper on a novelist, and I chose Claude McKay, who was a Jamaican writer who was of the time of the Harlem Renaissance. So I wanted to read his first novel, which was called Home to Harlem. And at Yale, they have the Sterling Library. I mean, they have many, many libraries, but the largest library, I believe it's the largest library, is the Sterling Memorial Library. I go up to the floor, I'm in the stacks, I'm in the shelves, I'm searching through, and I find Claude McKay's Home to Harlem, which was published in 1928. And I opened the book, and it was the first edition, and I thought to myself, wow, this book has been here since 1928. And here I am, 1991, and I'm touching this book. And maybe a week ago somebody else did, and maybe a month ago somebody else did. But 5 years ago somebody did too. And 20 years ago somebody did too. In 1928, somebody was the first person to put this book on the shelf. And that's when it occurred to me that, wow, people never throw books away. Magazines, you read, they're fun, they're glossy. They have they're glimpses of our culture at a particular week or in a particular month, and you read them and you throw them away. I mean, sometimes there are compulsive people who save them, but generally, magazines are somewhat disposable, but books kind of live on forever. And then when I realized that, I thought, well, that's an impact that you can make to the world, because when people don't throw books away, those books exist forever, and people can always come back to it. And it can always provide somebody with inspiration or entertainment or knowledge, even if that knowledge is based, even if that knowledge is, 1850 knowledge, it's still the knowledge that they had at that time. And it just seemed very powerful. I also grew up in a very religious house. And when you actually think that publishing was actually created around the Bible, I mean, that is something that has absolutely lasted forever and continues to remain relevant through history. Now, of course, in my job, do I think that I'm publishing the Bible? No. Do I think that does every book that I do need to live in the world for 200 years? Maybe not, but maybe they do. I think that a novel that I write today is a novel that gives somebody an insight into characters and human behavior and human motivations that is going to be kind of eternal. And I think that's a privilege to be able to be part of that birthing process for something that is going to last long and impact people for many generations to come. When you make those decisions, or when those decisions come to you, when those epiphanies come to you, then things start just rolling out and rolling in front of you to make that happen. I really do believe that. In my particular case, the epiphany came around a book, and my career became books. But really, the bigger message of the epiphany was contribute to the world in a lasting way. My career in books led to many, many careers of people who were writing. I'm not saying that if I didn't publish them, nobody would have published them. But I'm the one who did publish them, and I am the one who did help mold them and birth this as being I was the one who was the midwife for this book. And this book impacted these people. So yeah, I do think that my epiphany not only has, creates a work life for certain people, but the actual work that they create also provides inspiration to another set of people. So it kind of keeps going, and that's really great.